Welcome to Beth's Dead, Episode 7. I'm Monica Padman, and I'm here, per usual, with Elizabeth and Andy.
Hello.
Hello.
And last week, we discussed maybe needing to make contact with this person, the professor.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, before we do that, I wanted to kind of make sure we were doing all of our due diligence. So today's episode is going to be in two parts.
Okay.
First, we're going to talk to a catfishing expert.
Oh.
Which I think is important for us to do to answer some of the questions we have, especially like what type of person this man is.
Whoa, yeah.
You know, if there's I don't know. She'll have all the answers for us, hopefully.
Creepy guy.
Yeah. The type is creepy. And then the second half, I did reach out without your permission. I did reach out to a private investigator.
Whoa.
Oh.
Monica.
Well, I just felt like we really need to check our boxes, cross our T's, dot our I's, make sure we're really doing this appropriately if we're going to make contact.
Yeah, I love it.
Did they start?
Yes. So the second part of this, we're going to discuss what she found.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
And then we can sort of make an informed decision about our next steps, reaching out. But first,
Oh, my God.
But first, let's talk to our catfishing expert. She's an associate professor, and her name is Evita March.
Let's do it.
We are very, very grateful to have you.
Good morning, by the way, or good afternoon.
I wonder, maybe should we start with maybe you just telling us a little bit of like your background?
My name is Evita March. I'm an associate professor of psychology at Federation University Australia. My research expertise is in cyber psychology, so the interaction of humans and technology, in particular how humans behave online. So I've always been interested in both pro-social and anti-social behavior, but of course what is, I guess, more interesting is why people behave anti-socially online. And so I've explored a range of different anti-social online behavior, including trolling, cyberbullying, selfies, and intimate partner cyberstalking in general. This was a starting interest of catfishing. Also, I'm interested in the individual or the psychology behind it. So the individual differences and personality traits that predict why people engage in this behavior.
Oh, my gosh. We could not have found a more perfect human being to speak to. I don't know if you know the history of why we're reaching out, but Andy and I had an experience that we've been taking Monica on this journey of, I guess the word is catfishing. You probably have a more nuanced take on it.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to talk to you about the type of person who does this and what your experience is. And we just have so many questions.
Yeah, why don't you guys walk her through a little bit of like the background of what happened?
The quick down and dirty version.
Okay, so we had a podcast. This was back in 2015 where people would write in with their questions and he and I would give our unqualified advice. And I maybe naively was responding to people off the podcast and in some cases developing relationships with especially young women who maybe seemed like they didn't have like a support system. Over time, I developed pretty strong relationships with a couple of these women. Like I'm the big sister. And then
that had written in.
Yes, they had written in. And then also just via email, we were communicating and on our comments section. And then I got a message one day that one of them had died by suicide. And I was devastated. And then the brother started to message me as though I maybe had some part in kind of misleading her, like asking if I was a therapist of some sort. And during this, a friend of mine realized this was really weird that this brother was reaching out to me. Long story short, we realized that one person was posing as 8 of these characters who had been taking up a ton of my time and energy. They all had very rich lives. Like one was a Norwegian couple, it was kind of pretty wild. And
Wow.
yeah, so then we kind of pinpointed who we think it is. And so at this stage in the process, we're like going to be reaching out to this person and wanted to talk to you about what we're potentially getting into. I have a lot of safety questions and also just curiosity about, because the person that we've, researched is a professional in academia, has a family.
Extraordinary. I mean, it is. I don't know whether it is reassuring to hear, like, it's not, that sounds like a rather actual typical experience, but at the same time, I'm really personally sorry to hear that you had to go through that, particularly then the insinuations that you perhaps had some responsibility. That must have been incredibly challenging and difficult to hear. So I'm sorry for your experience.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Is this typically in a romantic relationship?
I think the difficulty, we've really come to see catfishing as synonymous with like a financial scam. The typical idea is seen, they build this relationship and then they start asking for money. And so they're relying on having built that relationship. So the trust is there. So when they ask for the money, like, it's validating. And then over time, like, there are reports of people who have given hundreds of thousands of dollars to people who have catfished them. But what I find more and more curious is that money is not always the goal. There are quite a few instances where, like you're aware, the goal is far more tricky to pinpoint exactly why they are doing this and why they're engaging in this. Now, I feel I probably need to take a step back and even start with like the meta definition of how do we explore, like, how do we define catfishing and where we go from there. So this was important to us as researchers who were exploring this activity, is to explore something, we have to define it. So broadly, catfishing fits into online deception. And online deception has 4 categories. Firstly, trolling, so intentionally deceiving and upsetting people online. Then there's category deception. This is considered rather innocuous. Category deception could be like creating an online dating profile and clicking that you're average weight rather than, I have a few more pounds. So in addition to category deception, there's also impersonation. This is pretending to be somebody else, it's assuming another identity. So impersonation, a bit more insidious. Lastly, identity concealment. So concealing a part of your identity, saying perhaps that you're not a smoker. Catfishing fit the definition of impersonation, pretending to be somebody else online for the goal of either their own amusement or fun or fraud. Now, in saying that, more and more cases are coming out of romance catfishing. In general, catfishing really is dependent on creating that relationship with a target or victim survivor with the intent of deceiving them to exploit them in some way. Also, just as a complete side note, and might be of interest, where the term catfishing comes from. Yeah, right. So
I want to know.
So years ago, cod was shipped from Alaska to China, but when it arrived at China, it was quite lifeless and mushy in the barrels. And so they put catfish in the barrels with cod. So the catfish would chase the cod the entire time. So the sentiment is like the same. The catfisher is constantly keeping you alert and on the go and almost like just active and trying to figure things out like the whole time.
Wow.
Oof.
And I guess to normalize this as well, how many people experience this, they fall victim to catfishes. In fact, there was one calculation that in Australia in 2020, it cost, I think, these scams from catfishes was about $37 million that people lost to these.
Whoa.
Like
My
it's massive. But it's more than that. It's also just the psychological outcomes when you realize, or people who then find out that they have experienced or been a victim survivor of catfishing. I mean, unsurprisingly, we see a range of psychological outcomes like depression, anxiety, symptoms consistent with PT or post-traumatic stress disorder, all the way to then increase of suicidal ideation, the feeling of shame. And that is really interesting to me because it's shame that they experience this. They should have known better. But it's the intent of the catfisher that you don't know better.
One of my questions for you is, who are the idiots who fall for this sort of thing? I'm just so I don't know if there's an element of shame for me. No, this whole experience recording this podcast, I'm going, how did I not see it? How did I not know? You know, it's really wild looking back on it and thinking this sort of thing couldn't happen to me, but it sure did.
Yeah.
So when there's not a financial, because in our case, in Elizabeth and Andy's case, it was not for financial gain. And in fact, the only amount of money exchanged was actually the other way. This person sent some money over, also obviously as like some bait, I assume, to like keep them, as you say, like on the hook. But like, I just can't for the life of me, other than financial gain, understand what they're getting.
So let's consider, I guess, 3 different scenarios of catfishing. The first, financial gain. In that their gain is that I'm going to exploit this person financially. They still have to establish that relationship. They still may build that fake identity or impersonate another person, steal an identity, but they still catfish them. But the end goal is money. The second, and this is, I guess, the really bleak cases as well, is there are a number of cases of catfishing in early 2000s, the Wild West of the internet, where young girls were catfished by predators, older male predators, and they were then essentially groomed by the catfisher. There was a really famous case in Australia called Carly Ryan. She has a foundation now, and she was in the early 2000s. She was catfished by an older serial predator and pedophile online. He created a profile of his son. She established a relationship with her as a 17-year-old son. He then came to her house to a party, met the pet, like posing as that son's father. His behavior was really erratic. Maybe she was 14. It must have been her 15th birthday, the party he came to. 3 weeks later, he abducted her and murdered her. So that was a terrible. In fact, I mean, I'm also going to just rattle off 2 more in America. Alicia Kay established a relationship with a girl online when she was 13 called Christine. She discovered that Christine was an older man, but then that catfisher introduced her to another man who actually did abduct her, live broadcasted her rape and torture in his basement. The FBI traced the live broadcast. She is alive now. She does motivational speaking around online safety. The last case, Casey Woody, she was in America, 13 years old. She established a relationship with a 17-year-old boy, also turned out to be a 47-year-old man, who did abduct her and murder her. So these are the really horrific cases where it was actually a pedophile who catfished younger girls and to groom them, but they had horrible ends. But then we also have this third area, and this is the area that we're really talking about here, is what is the end goal? These cases are actually far less common. So in our study, we were interested in exploring the dark tetrad of personality. These are 4 socially noxious personality traits. These, I've had a lot of research on these traits over the years, exploring different antisocial behaviors, whether online or offline. And there seems some value here, given how these traits are characterized, that they would predict catfishing. So we were interested in assessing narcissism, so egoism, the sense of superiority, psychopathy, so being impulsive, a lack of guilt, personal responsibility for your actions, a lack of empathy as well, or I should say empathy deficits, Machiavellianism, which is the tendency to manipulate others for your own personal gain, and lastly, sadism. So enjoyment of harming people psychologically or physically. So you can see with these traits coming out that, yeah. So with these traits coming out, it's making like sense that, okay, well, there's probably value in exploring these. I should also note, we explore these traits as non-clinical or subclinical. We're not diagnosing people with a narcissistic personality disorder. Everybody has some level of narcissism. Everybody has some level of sadism. Like if you've seen a friend fall over and laugh, like it's a little, we all have a level of these traits. We're interested in people who have higher levels of these traits subclinically. Might not meet that personality disorder, but they are more narcissistic and high levels of those other traits. How we assessed catfishing was tricky. There's no psychometrically validated measure of catfishing out there. So what we did was we generated some items that seemed to capture catfishing behaviors. And some of these items included things like, I tell lies about myself when I talk to someone online, or I make up stories or excuses to avoid meeting people like online in real life. I've fabricated online profiles to escape my real life. So we found that people who engaged in those higher levels of catfishing had higher narcissism, higher psychopathy, and particularly blowing off the charts was sadism. Like sadism was an incredibly strong predictor. So their enjoyment of hurting other people was very strong. Wow. Another interesting little finding, we also looked at men and women if one engaged in more of this, because the research around that is a bit hazy, like who does this more. We did find before we explored the personality traits, we popped gender in the model first to see, well, is gender doing anything? We did find that men were engaging in this behavior more, but once we included personality traits, that was gone. It became non-significant. So at the end, that means that it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. If you're narcissistic higher, if you're higher in psychopathy, but particularly, especially if you are like non-clinical sadistic, then you're going to engage in this behavior more.
Yeah. I have a question. Because of the internet, and not just the internet, though, just even the amount of podcasts that have come up in the last 10 years, there's like also these parasocial relationships that start happening. And to me, the two are so closely linked. When you're in these parasocial relationships, you can feel entitled to those people, even though you don't know them, but you're like, but I consume your content all day long and I know you. And I think it can easily get thwarted into we're in a relationship when we're not.
I haven't explored parasocial relationships, but I guess the concept there is similar of this form of attachment. Yeah. I guess what I would say, though, is that it's a little bit different to me. Like, I think they're in the same ballpark, but the catfisher is intentionally manipulating you into that relationship. Yeah. Like my parasocial relationship, it could be just following somebody or an influencer. I see that their life is so similar to mine. I feel really close to them. I feel a sense of connection, which we all do. We may have people we follow who we feel really connected to that they may never have spoken or acknowledged us, but we have that sense of connection. The catfisher is creating that sense of connection in you. They are exploiting you in some way. Right. They exploited your empathy that you had for these younger women to create that relationship. They find how they can exploit you and they do so. Now, that's why online dating is a really thriving, fertile environment for this, because they are exploiting people's want for a relationship. I mean, you could not find a more fertile environment to try and catfish people who are likely lonely because, and I don't say everybody who's single is lonely, that's a cop out, that shit, but I can say that people who are creating a date or looking to online date are probably looking for a relationship, and that is exploited. That is why they are quite good at what they do, and why the shame that people experience as a result of this is so misplaced, especially from what we found in our research. I just want to talk a little bit about the Machiavellianism finding, because we didn't actually find it as a significant predictor, which at first glance confused us a little, because we thought, that's the manipulative trait. Like, that's the exploitive one. Like, what happened there? Why didn't that come to the party? What we theorized from that was Machiavellianism is really dependent on what they get out of it. As in, their manipulation of others is for their own gain. Narcissism could go either way. We did think one narcissistic could just be that sense of entitlement. I can do this, like I'm entitled to do this and treat people this way. The other thing we also thought with narcissists, though, is that they actually could take some enjoyment in being able to manipulate people of profile, which may be like your exact case that you described as well, in that being able to manipulate you gave them a sense of superiority. They had control over you.
Mm-hmm. This all brings me a huge question for you is, are these people dangerous? You know, I've had like fear for the last 8 years and really once we realized what was going on, kind of shut everything down. We shut our podcast down. I scrubbed my Instagram of my children, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
Clearly the ones who are predators, like sexual predators, are extremely dangerous. But for these, the ones who it's not quite so clear cut what they're after, do you think that they are dangerous?
I mean, it is a huge question because I guess it depends on the motivation, like a lot of things. So there were some researchers that did explore that, and they were people who had catfished. They didn't get to interview many because, as unsurprisingly, not a lot came forward. But a lot of they cited motivations of loneliness and also escapism. Now, that I think likely might render them a bit more innocuous. It's a really hard thing to tease apart, though, because I think that the very act of what they're doing is dangerous because of the psychological impact that they can have. The behavior is abusive because it leaves you feeling like fearing for your safety. Look at how much you changed your life because of this. But whether they are actually going to, let's say, I guess the word we'd be looking for is violent. Are they going to be violent at the end of this? What might be reassuring is in these cases where it was more like the motivation was unknown why they did this. Was it just to, Chris, you put it, fuck with people? There haven't been a lot of outcomes of violence. Typically when the catfishing is discovered, it falls apart, like it's just, it is, and the person, the victim survivor is there putting back the pieces together of their life.
That's such a relief.
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot. But I mean, in saying that, there are cases of violence. So I certainly wouldn't want to, I guess, reassure and say, no, don't worry. Like, but I guess I'm also emphasizing, I'm like, I really don't want the takeaway to ever be like, cool, like, you know, it's not so bad as long as it doesn't get violent.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder sometimes if, and I really don't want, because this is not based on research, it's just my speculation, so I really can't confirm. But I wonder sometimes if also the cat, in these circumstances, when they have created 60 identities, they're doing this for over nearly a decade. Imagine how much work that is. Like, I wonder if there's a point that they are like, release me from this. Somebody has to stop me because I cannot stop myself.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I could see that.
One of the things that when I stopped responding to these characters, you could feel the panic of the person behind the screen. And we also made it so that the comments on our website we were getting, but they weren't being published. And it was almost like this person was more panicked about not having their life's work. So panicked that was gone. Like there's such a pride to this kind of massive, I don't know, compilation of work, really. And it truly was impressive, like how detailed all these characters were. Prolific. And I also, in doing this podcast, I've been reflecting a lot, and I also feel like when you're saying narcissism, not so much the sadism, but if there's a version of like them thinking that they actually were helping me because I took the bait, I wanted to be the hero to this young woman who is struggling and this other woman who is such a huge fan, and like I was feeding into this. And I don't know if there's a story that maybe these people are telling themselves about like, I'm actually helping, or I'm being a positive force in this person's life, even though it's all fake.
Okay.
Like they have to justify it to themselves, and that's a plausible way to do it, at
Yeah.
least, sort of, maybe.
That's, a really important point, because along the way, I mean, unless they are a complete psychopath, they would have to rationalize their behavior and rationalize this. And that is, I think, a really excellent way that they could do that.
How typical is it that there are these multiple characters in these situations? Is that pretty common?
In a lot of cases, it does seem to be that the catfisher tends to create like at least one alternate that can confirm what the catfisher is saying. Again, I can't speak to every case because I don't know, but I do know of like some popularized ones. There's at least some alternate that's able to reassure the victim survivor that this is fine, like this person is genuine, this person is real. In some cases, it is just the catfisher and one person. So, actually, there was something interesting you did say earlier, and that was, and I thought what a nice way might be to also round up this conversation was to talk a bit about like warning signs. What can people do? Like, what's a bit of a call to action with catfishing? So what do we do?
Oh, was it when I asked what kind of idiots fall for this?
So firstly, I'm going to reiterate with that. It's actually not about who can fall for it. I think, though, it is people that may be vulnerable in some way for them to exploit and take advantage of. You also noted earlier that it took somebody else from outside. And I think that is the biggest thing I do say to people as like a guide with this is that when you are in it, it is actually, you're lost. And this is what they have created. They have created a world of control for you, and you're in that world. You cannot see the forest through the trees from this. And if you try, they will create a whole new thing to bring you back in. So you are almost helpless in this. If anything feels ever off or it might not feel right, talk to somebody who is not in it, or talk to somebody who's outside, because honestly, they could even, like, just as an assessment, say that does not seem right. And you need somebody who is not being trapped, controlled, exploited to give you that and say that. So that's my big encouragement here. If it seems, something seems a bit off, talk to somebody else about it, get that objective view.
That's such good advice, because my friend was the one who said, that's weird. And then I think it took Andy going, that is weird. You know, it took kind of two outside people, because I was just during this conversation thinking, if Beth had at some point said, hey, can I talk to you? I mean, I was in so deep with her, I would have called her. Like, and now I have such stronger boundaries, obviously, thanks to this experience. But it's pretty wild to think back on that. I had two tiny children, you know, so busy that I would have dropped everything to talk to this person because I felt that kind of invested.
It's almost as if they put this pair of sunglasses on you and you are now lost in this world, and you are lost. Like, I mean, even your behavior can be extreme. Like, you would not even expect yourself in other circumstances to behave like this. But that is all the manipulation and control. That is what they do. And I mean, when they anticipate any extent of you pulling away, any chance that you may actually, or somebody else could take those sunglasses off, they will up the ante to continue that control. Which is why it's really extraordinary that I do think that there are a few, like, even doing this, and they do up the ante. But then when they eventually do get caught, they're like, oh, thank God, because I never would have stopped. I genuinely don't think that some know how to stop.
Yeah, it sounds, I mean, it's sort of akin to domestic abuse cases, it sounds like. You get in this cycle of, like, bringing you in so close and needing somebody else to bring you out of it, and this, like, hate you, love you cycle. It's like, it sounds very similar, weirdly.
Yeah, I would say that they're almost two, like, it's just a different form. I mean, it is abuse. And yeah, it is absolutely a different form. Because another characteristic of both, either in abusive intimate relationships or even the catfisher, is the commonality of love bombing. Whether it is love bombing with like, if online dating, it may be showering you at the beginning with compliments. But even if it's not online dating, it's love bombing in the sense of perhaps you heard like, you're such a great listener, you're so good at this, you're so like they make you feel special for the very thing that they're trying to exploit you for.
Yeah.
The one thing that we've like theorized, or getting back to like who this can happen to, we were a great target, especially Elizabeth. We had this podcast that was kind of a playbook of our personalities. And so once this person started doing this to Elizabeth, they had this playbook sort of like, she'll probably relate to this, she'll probably like this. But they did it from all these different angles, which was so wild.
Yeah. I hate to say that, you almost like they had a dossier that they could
Totally.
refer to.
Yeah.
Look, an online environment offers so many social benefits. It does, like particularly for identity exploration, giving safe environments for people. I mean, like also supporting mental health. There's so many benefits of being online, but there's also quite a bit of danger and the potential for experiencing abuse and exploitation.
I'm glad we got to talk to you because I think it's just such a good reminder to everyone that what you put on the internet can be used.
Yeah. Yes, I am a very strong advocate as well for embedding more digital literacy in or education programs for younger adults, learning how to actually use privacy functions, but also how to report, how to block. Sadly, a lot of younger people just seem to think that they just have to deal with it alone, or they have to manage it. So I think I'm just an advocate in general for increasing our digital literacy, keeping us safe online.
That's excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for the chat and all the best with the podcast.
I am so glad we did that.
Yeah, me too.
She was amazing, but I cannot say it put me more at ease.
You don't feel safer after that?
Just, I do feel like the more we talk about this, and I feel like it is the right thing to do to give him the opportunity to weigh in. But yeesh.
Well, okay. Well, before we make any like major decisions, let me share with you some of the information we got from the private investigator I hired. We'll call her Amanda. How's everyone feeling?
Nervous. How are you feeling, Andrew?
Yeah.
A little nervous.
Like, what are we nervous about?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Just how potentially, I don't know. I don't know if I'm comfortable like saying this, but like how potentially like bad this guy is, or like, he's already made us so at unease in general. Revisiting this has made me uneasy. And then I'm like, if I'm going to find out a bunch of bad shit, is it going to make me feel more uneasy?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So let's dive in, shall we? I found out that based on what our guy has out on the internet already, like what he has put out there, there's a through line of victimhood in his story. He is the victim, which makes it interesting for us a little bit because I wonder
he's gonna love this.
I wonder how he's framed this in his head so that he's a victim, because he will, right? Like,
right.
I think we all do this. We justify our actions, especially when we know that they're not great, or our subconscious knows they're not great. We find a way to justify it. So I do find that through line relevant because I feel that it might come up if and when we make contact.
It's so interesting to me because, yes, I think on some level all of us do this, but he like made the choice to do this and spent so much time. I truly can't fathom how he would spin the story that he was the victim. Although he remember he was harping on Beth had donated $1,000 and like my sister donated $1,000 and you won't
Right.
even call me back. I mean, even his characters played the roles of victim time and time again.
In his mind, he's already paid the fucking with you tax.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
I believe he has justified this in some way, and I am really curious to know what it is. And I have a feeling maybe this victim persona might come up, but
Come out to
I
play.
don't know. Might come out to play. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. He has had a hard life. He's had a lot of interpersonal loss, which is definitely interesting because last episode we were reading his email, what we are calling his manifesto, and we were saying that this part is probably true. It's really him.
Yes,
And turns out it is.
exactly.
That's also interesting as far as maybe his need for like connection.
I also wonder how much of what his characters were offering was potentially like a catharsis for him, maybe.
Also hearing that, the parents dying and whatnot, that's something that you're very vocal about,
Yes.
especially back
Some
then.
would say to a problematic degree.
But that he might have, he's seemingly very drawn to you, and maybe you guys in his head were simpatico, sort of. You know, and
Yeah.
he was hoping to develop this relationship because you would understand him, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. One very interesting thing is he has been vocal that he's had stalkers.
That is fascinating.
Someone that does that, that's saying they've had all these stalkers and all this stuff. I'm the victim over and over.
Yes.
And yet they're doing this to Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Is all of that bullshit? Like, do they never have stalkers? And then
Yes.
this is just this weird way to get in front of this stuff. Almost it seems
it's
like
like-
weird mental games that you're doing, sort of. I don't know.
Look, we've seen some notable politicians in recent years who constantly are pointing the finger at their opposition saying, I'm just hypothetically saying, like, you rigged the election or
Sure.
you unfairly, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's almost like to create a distraction over there while I do the exact thing that I'm claiming this other person has done to me.
Yeah.
I would bet $1 million, and I don't have that, he has not been stalked. And that I feel like it's similar to, I don't know, let's think about like a cult leader or someone like that who there are steps that you take and you kind of learn how to get better at it and stuff like that. I almost feel like if he's writing about someone doing this thing to him, it's almost like
Admission of guilt.
Or a purging.
it's a purging, or it's also to me kind of self-masturbatory, like where he's like waving this out there and this is what they did and these are the steps they took and kind of showing his cards in a way and getting away with it. Also, I just want to say, if you were so upset about being put through this that you're online talking about it, you don't go and then put someone else through
But
it.
that's what I don't know because, you hear so many stories, abused people abuse people.
Yep.
You
That is true.
I don't know. That's where my question is in all of this.
Well, because also, okay, the picture of Natasha and Anders.
Yes.
I know who they are. I mean, I don't know if I should say it. I mean, I don't think it would make a difference, but they've been located. Like, they're real people. And, well, the boy, Anders, his last name is Anderson.
Whoa.
Wow.
And then she put two and two together, which I cannot believe we did not do, that none of us did, that Anders sounds like Andy. And obviously Beth is
Yes.
short for Elizabeth. And so there is like a weird name. There is a weird name.
There's
Yeah.
thing
something with the
happening.
names for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I also want to say, interestingly, we discovered, Monica, I'm so sorry that I sent you a erotic photo
Oh, yeah.
gallery, but I had forgotten that I had the link to the gallery that he had sent me as Beth to basically say, these aren't so bad, are they? And long story short, the adult model that was playing the role of Beth in his narration, her name or part of her name is Natasha.
Wow.
So he kind of cycles
He's
through
doing
these
a weird
names.
thing with names.
I mean, I will say as a writer, not as prolific as this man, but I often just pull names out of, I will be like, this character's named Monica because I saw you this week. And
God willing, you write me into one of your scripts.
of course. But do they know? I'm so curious if they know that they've been.
If they've been used in this way,
Yeah.
my guess is no.
Right.
So there's no connection to him, these people.
Didn't seem like it.
Okay.
My most important question for her was, do you think this person is a threat? And she said no. She doesn't think so after doing her whole deep dive. She said he does not have a criminal record, and she doesn't think there's reason to believe that he's
a threat.
scary. I mean, he's scary mentally, obviously, but that he would hurt us.
Yeah.
Right. Does she think we got the right guy?
Yeah, she does think so.
Yeah.
So, we got some information. We didn't get it all. I don't think we'll ever get it all. I can't really get it out of my head that I think we need to attempt to make contact with him. And this is obviously up to you guys, but I think it would be best if one of you two was there to be a part of this confrontation. I think it's the only way for you two to have any sort of closure around this, and we can talk about what that means. And I want to know how you guys feel about it.
I'm so nervous.
It's a lot, I know.
I feel protective of you not to talk to him. I don't necessarily think there would be any repercussions from it. I'm not that worried, but on the small chance that it does rattle you more than less, I hate that it could trigger, I don't know, bring you back to that time more so
where I'm
than just
terrified.
revisiting it now. Because I feel like revisiting it now is almost closure in this weird way that I just would hate for him to spark the uneasiness again.
Well, what would it look like, Monica?
I mean, I don't know, I'm not unfortunately, I'm not a detective or
That is unfortunate.
or a journalist or anything. So I think I'm gonna either call that number.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds so scary. But I think I'll either call that number or email him
Okay.
and say, hey, hello. Hi. I'm not sure how.
Say hi in Norwegian, English.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think I'll have to say something like, hi, I'm Monica Padman. I produce the Armchair Expert podcast. We're doing a podcast about some events that involve you. We would really love it if you would participate.
Yeah, we
Let
would
me
love to
know.
hear your
Side of this.
side of the story. Can we set up a time to chat?
Yeah.
Is it that?
I think we do need to say this is coming out whether you're participating in it or not,
Right.
because I think that will make him want to share his side of the story. And it's not, for me, it's not a trap. I want to hear his side of the story. We
Right.
have so many fucking questions that we've laid out throughout this whole
Yeah.
show. And I want to know what the answers are. And I also want to know what his mindset is and was. And
I'm so curious wouldn't it just bowl all of us over if he were like, yeah, I really regret doing that. It got out of control
yeah.
or something like that. I would feel like, whoa.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what's going to happen. But I like the idea of the two of you. I don't want to like send Monica out like a lone sheep.
We still have the Totally Lame email, right?
Yeah.
Which he's emailed a gazillion times.
And he would be intrigued.
Why don't we
Oh, that's
email
a
from
good
that?
idea.
Like that, we know he already has that email, so I don't know why we're so afraid of giving our email addresses to this guy, but we are.
Yeah.
Imagine being him getting an email from that email address.
And
I
what-
kind of love that.
And
I
what are you
kinda
going to
do too.
say?
I think it's, well, let's decide right now. I think
Decide.
this is Andy from Totally Lame and Totally Married, reaching out because we're working on a story that involves you, that we're doing, if with your blessing, Monica, that we're doing with Armchair.
Yes.
And we would really like to
Talk to you.
talk to you before we publish it.
Yeah.
I think, period.
Yes.
Can we set up a time to chat?
Let's do it right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let me get my laptop.
great.
What's everyone's anxiety level right now?
It just shot like through the roof.
But
I
just
think-
real quick though, is this the way?
This is the way.
I think it is the way, and I feel like we have a backup plan. Whereas I feel like if we had called, like calling him and not getting a response or answer or whatever feels tricky. I think this way we can, without a doubt, know that he's opening that email and looking at it, right? Because it's from Totally Lame.
Yeah.
Versus any other email I would go like, did he even get it? I don't know.
Then I actually think a follow-up email from the Armchair world
Yes.
is like completely appropriate and raises the stakes a little bit more.
Yeah.
Of like, oh shit, they're serious.
Right.
And then if there's no response there, then the call. I
Okay.
kind of like that plan of attack.
Okay, great.
Me too.
Okay.
Okay, let's send it. Great. I don't know why we're high-fiving.
I'm scared. This is big. I'm getting in his head right now and imagining seeing that email pop up
Oh, it's so good.
like an old ghost.
Yeah. But it's like he might be excited. He might be thrilled.
Yeah. And that's sad to me in some ways too. Like,
Yeah.
Okay,
It's not
what's
bad
the subject? God.
Your
okay.
side of the story?
How about podcast request? He wants to be heard.
Yes.
This
This
is
is-
Andy.
This is Andy from Totally Lame and Totally Married
Podcast.
Yeah.
podcasts. We,
Are doing
I think story is good, like
Okay.
on a story that involves you.
I would love to give you the chance to tell your side of the story. Can we set up a time to chat?
I think that might automatically put him on the defensive.
Defenses.
I think it should be like, I would love to chat with you.
And ask some questions, maybe.
Or I think even just chat with you. When you
Leave
have
it vague.
Yeah, when you have the time. Or like, I'd love to chat with you when you have a few minutes.
I'd love to set up a time to chat with you.
Yes.
Can you let me
I'd
know your
love
availability?
to set up a time to chat with you. Can you let me your availability? This is so weird because it just feels like hey, Susan from HR. Da-da-da-da-da.
I know.
Right.
But we do have to, this is very critical the way we word this because we want him to feel like he wants to participate.
Okay.
So what is it?
Okay. Podcast request, subject line. This is Andy from Totally Lame and Totally Married podcasts. We are working in collaboration with the Armchair Expert podcast on a story that involves you. I would love to set up a time to chat with you. Can you let me know your availability? Thanks,
Andy.
Andy.
I think it's great.
I think it's great.
Okay, I want to barf.
What's our game plan for when it pops in our email? I feel
Well-
like we shouldn't read it until we can
I think what we
Zoom.
should do is Andy and I will be recording and we'll call you or Zoom.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so nervous, but I'm pressing send.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Done.
Great.
Okay. And we wait.
If you don't want to wait for more Beth's Dead, you can binge the entire series today at patreon.com/Beth's Dead, where all 10 episodes are available ad-free right now. Beth's Dead is presented by Armchair experts Monica Padman and Nobody's Listening, Right? It is produced and edited by Andy Rosen, Elizabeth Laime, and Monica Padman. Additional engineering by Rob Holysz. Music and sound by Andy Rosen. Special thanks to Evita March.